40 years ago, I had a hallucinogenic experience. Was LSD, and it was transformative.
Mm-hmm.
I did acid twice, and the first time was transformative, and the second time was just a tiny bit. It just made me laugh all night.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one was transformative in that the more there is to reality that I hadn't really even explored,
Mm.
I saw and recognized. Not saw and it's like, oh, look at that. It's like I saw, I was like, oh, I know what that is. Oh, I know what that is. I know what that too is. Like, why do I know all of these things?
That look what we've built. And in this lifetime, you will never be able to overcome us because look how incredible it is. It's like it's got all these constructs and like there's gears and things and machines and it's so well. And it's just like you don't have it in you to be able to overcome this. It's just like, we run you.
When we were getting ready for it, is like coming time. Remember, we had to stop drinking coffee like 3 days before.
Yeah, they just said 3 days, and I was like, and when the 3 days was, I was like, I'm drinking coffee.
Yeah.
So you were drinking coffee?
Until 2 days. I was like, you could do it.
You could
2 days.
2 days is enough.
And I tell you what, when it was happening,
Yeah.
I could feel that coffee getting kicked out of my body like this. Yeah, you'd be moving, and I'd be like, I know it was caffeine coming out.
I knew I would do it again, but then, yeah, I wouldn't do it right away. And that was the day after is how I felt. And then I was semi-convinced I was never going to sleep again. It might be a week before I sleep again. And he said, you'll probably sleep after you eat. And I'm like, I don't know.
I was remember we had a choice of doing a 3-day 1 dose or a 5-day 2 dose.
Mm-hmm.
And we all had initially signed up for a 5-day 2 dose. And I remember sitting there in horror, imagining the position I would be in with having paid a lot of money and have now on the docket to do a second dose of this stuff. And I'm not even, I was like, how in the hell do I get the hell out of here?
It's not an easy journey. And it isn't something like, oh, I've, taken some kind of drug before and I want to have that kind of experience. And unless you're very hardy and, physically and throwing up is like no big deal to you and that kind of thing. Yeah, maybe you can do that, but it's quite the journey.
I remember you specifically.
Yeah.
You were tossing and turning and groaning. I could tell you weren't having a good time whatsoever.
Not a good time at all.
And I looked over at you, and you, like, I literally saw a hand grab you by the head, rip you up. You stood up in like a millisecond, looked at me, your face is red, you're like, and then you took off.
I'm the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
Iboga is the captain of the ship. And when you have 2 captains of the ship, one of them's got to be not the captain. And it's not going to be me.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've known people like that too who go to like ayahuasca ceremonies every few months. They microdose mushrooms. They do
All the
things like
time.
all this stuff on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems much more like a recreational use
Mm-hmm.
and they don't get anything from it.
Something I did do was I noticed everyone around me was really moving a lot. And he said, if the more you move, the more it gets unsettled and you'll have to become nauseous. And so I was like, I'm not moving a muscle, and except for to get up, take my Iboga, go down,
Mhm.
and then every once in a while I had to like stretch a little bit and I was like, I'm just not going to roll over. I'm just going to,
Yeah, my belly was full of so much. Because then he told you, hey, why don't you should hydrate really a lot because you're not going to have a chance to drink water. So I friggin' hydrate. My belly's swashing with water, and he's like, hey, you don't want your belly swashing with water, and I'm like, dude, you told us to hydrate. That's what hydration is.
Welcome to the Driving to the Rest podcast. This is Inelia.
And this is Larry. Just a quick note. If you're hearing this, you're on our free feed, which means you'll only get the first part of this conversation.
To access the rest, go drivingtotherest.com and subscribe to the Wisdom Keeper Hour.
Join us and our expert panelists for detailed insights and the after party where you're invited to join in the conversation. Head over to drivingtotherez.com and become a subscriber.
Your $8 subscription keeps this podcast ad-free and helps us keep the lights on and maybe even get a decent cup of coffee. More importantly, it connects you with a community of passionate wisdom keepers like yourself. So if you're ready to go deeper, join us at drivingtotheres.com and support the journey. All right, so here we are on our second part of the
second part of the Iboga journey. If you haven't listened to the first part,
yes, go
we have
to
an episode.
drivingtotheres.com.
Drivetotheres.com and look for our first Iboga.
We're going to do it
So
episode.
we're going to do it. Yeah, we did it before, and we had a lot of ideas about what was going to happen. We talked about your own experiences with ayahuasca, your own experiences with mushrooms,
Yes.
and all the rest of our panelists' experiences with preparing or thinking about doing it. Some of them didn't even mention they were gonna. And since then, they have mentioned that they did it.
Yes.
And shared their stories in the second part of this show.
Right.
So I'll start.
Yes, honey.
I'm
I
afraid
have a few questions for you.
a few questions that we've asked everyone else also, or we'll ask everyone else.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Why did you join an Iboga ritual?
Well, there was a couple of reasons.
Okay.
The first reason was you said that it would be a good idea.
I said it? Why did I say
heard
that?
it. I think that you said that it might be a good idea for a variety of reasons. I don't know what they were, but that if I had a clear intention, that it would be a good idea.
Uh-huh.
And so I had been on the, I guess I would say on the fence about, say, you know, how old am I now? 56?
58, I think.
54.
So,
So like 35, 40 years ago, I had a hallucinogenic experience was LSD. And it was transformative. I did acid twice. And the first time was transformative. And the second time was just a tiny, tiny bit. It just made me laugh all night. But the first one was transformative in that the more there is to reality that I hadn't really even explored, I saw and recognized. Not saw and it's like, oh, look at that. It's like I saw, it's like, oh, I know what that is. Oh, I know what that is. Oh, I know what that's too. It's like, why do I know all of these things?
and
I was left with the, like,
yeah.
I must have had this experience before.
You even said once you thought your dad had given you some when you were a baby. Or
Yeah, I asked him, it's like,
is it-
did you dose us when we were little? Because I recognize all of this stuff. And he said, no, of course not. I would never do such a thing. But I don't know if I believe him. And so,
Oh boy.
so it was transformative, I would say.
Yeah.
And
Here's the thing.
what?
When we talk about experiences within one lifetime, we might think, oh yeah, our dad gave us blah, blah, right?
Maybe, yeah.
But if you look at it from the perspective of 10,000 lifetimes and some of the journeys or some of the experiences that you had in those lifetimes and what tools you might have needed or things that you've used, would you say that that might make more sense?
Well, absolutely. At the time, I didn't have any frame of reference for that. I didn't even know about past lives. I didn't know about UFOs or any of that stuff. But I mean, I had a UFO come down, open the
Through your
roof, and I saw the UFO sitting right above me. And I saw the plants, and the plants and the trees were alive and a living being, not just like it's a live tree, but it's actual sentiency, right?
Right.
And I could see music, and I could see the music come through the wires, go down the wire, come to the speaker, and then come out the speaker. It was like all of these things that later on I learned through other means. At this time, I learned at an experiential level. I know that's true, but I don't know why I know that's true. Or I meet some individuals, a little leprechaun guy sitting on a leaf and winking at me. I was like, I know that guy. Why do I know him? Where do I know him from? You know, these kind of things.
Right, yeah.
So it was something like that. And so that experience at the time is like it broke open a space of my life that I hadn't yet investigated,
Mm.
opened the door to investigating it, that I recognize as something that I want to investigate. And so with Iboga, I felt similarly that there's ayahuasca and San Pedro, and there's all of these plant medicines,
Mhm.
and my experience with the people who had been doing them, I hadn't seen anyone that I'd seen afterward that I was like, wow, that seemed like that made their life so much better. It seemed like I
Right.
didn't really notice a lot of difference,
Mm-hmm.
but I was still curious.
Mm-hmm.
Iboga, on the other hand, I've seen transform lives that were not trash, utterly like no way forward. Their
Mhm.
life is pretty much over.
Mm-hmm.
They've devolved into a state of being that his only purpose is none.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe get more drugs.
Right.
That's it. Everything is get more drugs. And it's transformed that from that into a rich life with meaning and purpose.
Why did you become curious in the first place about Iboga? When did it come into your awareness, and how did that curiosity come about?
I believe mostly it's entered my awareness about addiction recoveries.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone who's got heroin addictions or fentanyl addictions or opiate addictions or yeah, so not too long ago, back when I was more asleep,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was fascinating that the medical doctors had started considering pain as one of the um, vital signs. It's like we have pulse rate, blood pressure, respiration rate, and pain level. And then once it became a vital sign, it also became important, as like critical, to treat the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a wonderful miracle drug that's miraculous pain treatment that is not addictive.
That's what they
Unlike
said.
all other pain medicines, this one is not addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, all of that was a big ploy. I mean, the whole make it a vital sign was to make it
Cha-ching, cha-ching,
cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. You got to treat it. It's
Mhm.
like you're required to treat it,
Now the insurance company has to pay for it.
and it needs to be paid for, and get everybody on Oxycontin
Mm-hmm.
for every possible pain level
Right.
because it's especially not addictive. And I don't know at what point in that it's not addictive part, the doctors had to start noticing that their patients were somehow addicted,
I know, right?
but it
Yeah.
had to be patently obvious.
Yeah.
Either way, in the industry I was in was fishing. Oxycontin was like, I mean, treating pain on working 20 hours a day, hard with heavy stuff and hooks and sharp knives and sharp spiny fish and repetitive motions. Everyone is working with a
Some level of pain, right?
not even some, with a significant level of pain.
Mm.
It's like it's impossible to do the job and not experience significant levels of pain. So over the years, fishermen have worked through and figured out a bunch of different ways of treating that pain. Things like alcohol and drugs. Those are like top choice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It's just part of the thing. So Oxycontin was like, well, you're feeling hurt. Well, take some of that. Feeling hurt? Take some of that. If you just take that every day, then you'll be fine. Not only that, it makes you awake. Like,
Did
take
you
more of it. No, I never did.
How come?
I have a different relationship with pain.
Yeah.
I don't treat pain. I use pain as an indicator of,
What not to do?
well, right. So, for an instance, one of the jobs I did as a fisherman in Alaska was to take a pan of fish that's frozen, is like 50 pounds, pick it up off of a conveyor belt, flip it upside down, slam it down to get the fish out, take that pan and then put it on a different spot so it would go away and the fish will go a different way. So it's called breaking pans. And I mean, you do that one time, no big deal. Do it 100 times, no big deal. Do it 10, 100,000 million times. Then you have repetitive injuries. If you do it the same way every time, it's going to hurt.
Right.
So you have to figure out like 20 different ways to do the same thing,
So
using
you
different
use some
parts of your
different-
body
Yeah.
so that it spreads it out and it doesn't like cause you so much pain. So that's how I treated pain, is I just
Moved a little.
moved a little, changed it, did different.
Yeah.
But Oxycontin probably would have worked.
Right.
Just I didn't. Probably because I have a program inside of me that I was born with. that says, "Don't ever not once do heroin."
I had that program too.
Right.
And I was offered that stuff in California because I had chronic back pain that was really, really intense and bad.
Yep.
And I was offered that too, codeine and Oxycontin and all that stuff. And I always said no to any of those.
It's crazy, right? A friend, we went fishing, and he offered me one of these. It was a white powder, and I said, "What's that?" He said, "It's just like Coke." I said, "Yeah, but what is it?" It's just like Coke. I was like, "Well, what is it though? If it's not that?" He said, "Oxycontin. You crush it up." I was like, "No thanks."
Yeah.
Anyway,
So this was at the res, right?
this was at the res, and the consequence of everyone getting, I guess, prescribed massive amounts of heroin, which is what Oxycontin is, a synthetic heroin, is that when Oxycontin started to dry up or become expensive, then it just started doing heroin because it's cheaper.
Mm.
It's like $5 for what would cost you $50, or I don't know, even less. I don't know. I never bought heroin and I never bought Oxycontins, but I heard the guy say that's $50 a pill now. And also I heard him say it's only $5 for heroin. So maybe that's what. Either way,
And then crack, right?
crack is different. Crack's cocaine.
Oh, okay.
It's a stimulant. They didn't take crack for pain. They took crack because
To wake up in the morning. Oh, go to sleep.
no, none of the above. They did.
I have
Crack.
no idea.
They did crack so they could waste all the money they'd just made, so they'd have an excuse to go fishing again. So they'd hit the beach and then they'd buy crack, and then they'd smoke crack with girls and do debauchery,
Uh-huh.
and then be broke, so they'd have to go fishing again. Otherwise, they wouldn't go fishing
Mm-hmm.
because they wouldn't be broke.
Jesus.
It's a good, interesting cycle.
Yes, yes.
Consequence was there was a lot of heroin addictions and opiate addictions in our village.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did researches on trying to figure out, well, how do we resolve that and what way, Iboga came up often.
Well, what year was this? Do you remember?
2010-ish.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
So it was sort of underground. It wasn't widely known, but it had a miraculous effect of that. If you used Iboga to get a person off of heroin, fentanyl, opiums, they would be able to do it without having the withdrawal
Mm-hmm.
from opium.
Okay.
And or from fentanyl or from heroin. And usually that's one of the major like blocks to people who want to get off of heroin is like, it's so painful to stop. They're
They
like,
don't want to.
it's like, here's a whole month's worth of terrible pain, or just do it again one more time and it won't have any pain. So, you become
That's right, because their pain that they go through does last months sometimes.
right.
Doesn't
It's
it?
really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So Iboga, also Ibogaine, manage you to get off of that without the withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that month or 2 weeks or 3 weeks of detox stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it resets your brain to the state you were before you took heroin the first time. So you have
Wow.
relief from that addiction.
Yeah.
It's just a reset button.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
So that was like 15 years ago, right?
right, but it's always been on my radar,
Mm-hmm.
and it just occasionally pop in again and pop in again. And then most recently, Joe Rogan interviewed the governor of Texas, or the ex-governor of Texas, and he was staunchly anti-drug.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like,
Like me?
yes, like no drugs at all, period, dot. And everyone who does any drugs, they should go to prison forever. He was like that. And he was on Joe Rogan with another fella promoting the use of and making Ibogaine legal and using it in centers to help people get off this traumas of PTSDs and opiates and addictions and all of that. And he's like, it's like, I'm the last person on the planet you would ever hear or think to hear be proponent of this, because this is something he considered a drug,
Right, right.
like you would never. And here I am on Joe Rogan talking about it
Mm.
and encouraging the use of it. It's like, that's how dramatic this is.
Wow.
So this made
This was
me-
recent, right?
yeah, this is like even just this year.
Okay.
And so there came a time where we ended up with an issue, a problem in our community, and it seemed like a large problem. And it seemed like a problem that couldn't be resolved by talking about it,
Mhm.
processing the normal
Go-tos.
go-tos, right? It's like counseling. It's like these things were like drug treatment. You go to drug treatment, and they get you off of the drug for a couple of weeks, but it just comes back when you get out of treatment. And then you go back to drug treatment, and you go through the thing again. It's like a band-aid that wouldn't actually resolve it. And this issue felt like one that we needed as a community to resolve for once and for all, and firmly.
Yeah. Are we talking about yourself here? Something you were going through, or is another person?
That's why I was curious, or where Iboga came in.
You were going through this?
No,
Another person?
another person in our
Okay.
community.
Okay.
Our community as a group,
Mhm.
we're having a problem that this felt like it could be an answer
Yeah.
because it's dramatic, you know?
Yeah.
And it can, instead of band-aid it, it can reset, resolve.
Right. Right.
That's why I became curious to use Iboga. So when it came to me personally, I was like, no. And then you said something along, I don't remember your words exactly. It's like, it would be supportive if you did, if you had an intention or something. I think you said some words to that effect.
Mhm.
And so I considered it. And my first reaction was the autopilot. And my second was, let me look at it. So this is hugely transformative. There's probably programs or things running in my life, in my body, that I'm not even conscious of, that this may well reset. And so whatever it is, I should probably give it a go since it's coming. Why would I not?
Right.
So I decided to.
Cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah. That's a kind of long answer to the first question, I guess.
Well, it's a couple of questions, right? Because that was the reason why you wanted to join the ritual.
Right.
But also asked, how did it come into your awareness in the first place?
True.
Did it meet your expectations?
No,
No.
not in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
My expectations were so far off of what the experience actually turned out to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you want to share what your expectations were for this experience?
My expectations were right on par with LSD.
Get high.
It would be
psychedelic.
There would be like an experience, and then nothing, an experience, and nothing, and an experience. And the experience would be related to your focus and your thoughts. So if you're focused on the music, then you could have an experience with the music and going through the speakers. And if you're focused on your roof, it could split apart. If you're focused on the tree, it could be alive. I thought it would be like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I expected, I had heard that after like 3 days before, I found out that it keeps you awake all night, and that you had to not drink coffee. And I was like, I don't know about this stopping drinking coffee thing, but I better find out why. And so I researched why, and it said that the ibogaine interacts with the caffeine in your body to amplify it, and so that it can cause a big problem, whatever, why chemically, if you have caffeine in your body and iboga at the same time. Maybe it's hard on your heart, or I don't know what the answer was, but so it was a legitimate reason to stop caffeine. It's like, okay. And then it says something along the lines, it's very stimulating and you might be awake all night. And then I'm like, I'm not really a fan of that.
You like your sleep, huh?
Well, I don't mind staying up till 2 or 3 or 1 or 2.
Right.
1 or 2 is like my limit. After that, I'm like,
You want your sleep.
it's done now. Let's go to sleep. And this doesn't allow for that. It
Right.
keeps you awake and suppresses your appetite. And so I had experiences in the past with drugs that do that. And so I have a aversion to it.
What drugs did you take that have that effect?
Crystal methamphetamines, those have that effect. When you take some of that, and I take a little tiny little bit, it makes you, like if you're working in restaurants, 16 hours, no big deal. It's like coffee on steroids.
Right, yeah.
You don't have to get a huge gut full of coffee. You just have a tiny bit of methamphetamine or crystal meth, and you're awake and ready to go. Only problem is you're doing that using up reserves of other things that you end up depleted with. And so there's a larger recovery. It also makes your memory go bad. You can't remember anything for a while, and it suppresses your appetite, so you get thinner. So I don't recommend it.
No.
And so when I heard Ibogaine had the same effect, which is you become very stimulated, awake, and can't sleep, and you can't eat, I'm like, I don't really like that.
Right.
So I wasn't pleased with that part.
Got it. Got it.
So I wasn't expecting that, and then that was one of the things. So that's kind of, And I expected when we were done, like doing it,
Uh-huh.
and the effects were wearing off, that it would be like acid was, which was you're tired of being awake. I mean, you don't feel great because you're up all night, but it's all right. But Iboga the morning after for me was brutal. It was take the worst hangover you ever had, multiply it by 10, and then add it to 12 or 15 hours. It's like, what the?
Have you figured out why that happened to you? Because it didn't happen to anyone else.
Well, I'm going to say it's because I took some Strophanthus right before, and it had a negative interaction with the Iboga. Yeah,
That's it.
that's what I'm going to use.
Okay.
Would you suggest something else, maybe?
I think that each experience is very unique. That's what we've seen, right?
Right.
And
Everyone's
that's-
experience was radically different.
So, from that perspective, what was it? Why did you get that hangover?
Well, there's a couple of things going on. One of them is, I think that with Iboga especially, the more rigid, rigid might be the right word, you are, the tougher the experience might be.
Only if you're addressing that rigidity, right?
Well, I don't know. And the more willowy or bendable or surrenderable, the more likely you are to surrender to an experience than to, I guess, control it. The less hard it will be if you're more surrenderable, flexible. I don't know. These are hard to answer questions. What made my experience specifically different? I know I'm the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
Iboga is the captain of the ship. And when you have two captains of the ship, one of them's got to be not the captain. And it's not going to be me. So, what do you say?
Yes.
So there might be a different plant that I might work better with who doesn't have to be the captain. I think that could be it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But what I mean, the expectations things.
Yeah, I expected one thing and another thing happened.
Yeah.
I had no idea going in what the structure of the schedule was and what the structure of the yes and no's were. I didn't know it was going to come every hour. I didn't know you could skip one and then take one later. I didn't know you could take half of what you got. Didn't know what the consequences were of having too much or stopping before you had enough. These were a lot of things I didn't know, and I expected and wished I'd known that because I would have had a much different experience. For instance, I had my first dose, and he said he'll come by in an hour and give me a second dose, and we can either take it or not take it. And the plant will tell you, or you will know somehow. So I took the first one, and he said it tastes terrible, and it actually didn't taste terrible. It tasted fine. It was even sweet. And first dose, immediately after I'd taken it, I could feel it going throughout my body, all of my nerves, in through my legs and my arms and my body, and like repairing what felt like nerve damages, damaged nerves, damaged pathways in my body. It felt like it had just fixed them.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fantastic. And then I had purple and violet and blue lights begin to show up. Like, it's not just, oh, there's a purple light. It's like purple, the being of light,
Yeah.
And fantastic, really. And it felt wonderful. It felt great. And it was like 2 minutes later, he shows up with another pan full of it. it's supposed to be an hour.
Mhm.
I'm like, So I'm already like happy where I am. One's actually enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really need any more, but I kind of feel like, well, if I stop at one, I mean, we got a long way to go. Everybody else is doing a bunch. I'm going to be like way out of sync. And if I stop now, I mean, do I get more later, or could I have more later? I don't think it's like if you stop, you stop.
Mm.
So it's like if I stop, then I don't get no more. But I'm not here for like one is like $2,000 for one little bowl of it. Give me two, that's like half price, and I get three, it's a third of price, right? So there's a lot of
Yes.
rationalizations going on. It's like,
Yes,
let's
yes.
make this worth it.
Right.
And then I'm not here for pretty lights and a little bit of a healing of my nerves. I have other intentions that I'm interested in addressing. And one, is that even enough?
Mm.
So these are a lot of questions that I don't have any answers to. So I took the second one, even though it was too early. And my
Yeah.
body had said, one's enough
For now.
for now,
Yeah.
which
But for
turns
now, I
out to
think-
be, it could have been an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I could have more. I
Yes.
could have half of the dose.
Mhm.
I don't have to take all of what shows up,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have to take it all then.
Right.
I can wait. I didn't even consider that as potential possibilities.
Even though other people knew that was the possibility. So that's interesting.
Apparently other people knew, but nobody told me
They
or a
did.
few of the other people. We didn't hear it.
Oh, yeah, that's a different thing, isn't it?
Right. We didn't hear that.
So
And that's again
interesting.
part of the plant
Right.
and the way the plant works. You
Mhm.
hear, and the plant's one of the captains of the ship.
Right. Will
So
you hear it? Will you not
if
hear it? And, yeah.
So again, these are the expectations I had, and I didn't. Those weren't what I expected.
Okay. Okay.
So, I mean, I think everyone else, and as you'll hear, had dramatically different experiences than I did when it comes to some of these things.
Can you share what experience you had that was most impactful or experiences?
Yeah, I was
that were-
taking the second dose.
Mhm.
And the second dose, when it showed up and I put it in my mouth, actually, I put it in my mouth. It's this powder. You put it in your mouth, and then you take some water and you swirl it around, and then you swallow it.
Mhm.
In the first dose, I had taken some on licked my thumb and had some, licked it and licked it and licked it. So I took it a little bit slowly and through my whole mouth and really engaged with the plant, you know. And the second dose, I did one of those and I was like, let's just take it all. And I put it in, and I switched it around, and I swallowed it. And from that moment on, it was brutal hell.
Yeah.
Yes. That was the most impactful thing, was taking that second dose. Because at that moment, I got what you experience when you drink, say, a whole bottle of tequila and then lay down in your bed to go to bed.
Mhm.
It's called the spins.
Yeah.
And I'm laying there, and inside my body's spinning like this, and outside my body's still.
Uh-huh.
And so closed eyes, open eyes, it doesn't matter anymore. It's like everything's spinning and it won't stop.
Uh-huh.
And I got a headache too. And my stomach started to hurt. But not like I wanted to puke, just like a stomach ache.
Right.
Like I had the worst hangover ever invented, and the spins. And I was like, what am I going to do? And then I got this message, surrender to the plant.
Did everyone say it to you?
As we'll find later, more than one person heard that same thing. And
3 people, in fact.
3 people, in fact, and probably the rest did too, but forgot. At any rate, I was in dire straits, honey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm spinning, headachy, and stomachache, and there's definitely no more purple lights. It's not like wonderful. There's no nerves getting fixed. It's like I'm all of a sudden in hell.
Right.
It's freaking brutal. And so I heard that surrender to the plant, and then I understood the spins in this case felt to me like this is how you exit your body, like you want to go out of body.
Mm.
The
It happens sometimes.
spinning,
Mhm.
the soul could go out of your body, and you
Right.
can enter into other dimensions and go for a soul journey. And so I tried to surrender into that and go with it and allow it. But I'm afraid I was too rigid, and it was too close to alcohol, too close to some of the negative experience I'd had going to bed and having the spins.
Mhm.
It was too close to it to surrender to
Right.
it, because in the past experiences of those things, I would be like, I have to figure out how to move through it, not surrender to it.
Mm.
Take a shower, take some aspirin, walk it off, get up, drink some water, whatever, make it from
Go in.
here, go to here. So we're through that, and now we can move on. And you don't surrender to that. You just have to suffer through it, right? So instead of surrendering, I pretty much tried the suffer through it part.
Right. Yeah.
Suffering through it part with spins from alcohol, you're talking half an hour. Suffer through it for Iboga, we're talking 12 hours.
Wow.
It's a lot. And it's really not great. So that was pretty impactful.
Yeah.
I remember wondering, well, after an hour of that spins,
Mm-hmm.
the guy showed up with another pan full. And I'm like, are you kidding me? There's no way. I can't even handle what I took. There's no way I'm going to take more. But he's here. So I did it, and I took a little thumb, and I put a little thumbful on me to see if that would like help the spins or something. And it was like revolting. And it was the plant. It felt to me like the plant said, no, sir.
Mm-hmm.
My body definitely said, no, sir.
Right.
You are not doing not one more bit of that.
Yeah.
Put that over there. And so I put it over there, and I figured, well, maybe the spins will stop. Maybe things will get better. And then maybe later I can use the rest of it. If he doesn't take it away, I'll just have this nice stash.
Your stash.
I had a stash over there in case I needed it later.
Uh-huh.
Never happened, and he took it. I just suffered for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And in the morning, I was still awake, and the spins had slowed down. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. I was like, and my bed, we had these nice, thick, wonderful cushions. After 12 hours, my hips were numb. My back was numb.
So
my side was numb.
flat.
Everything was wrong. It's like, this is the worst.
Oh my God.
That's how it felt at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember some of the others, when I'd seen them or talked to them, I was like, it's like, what a disastrous mistake this was. It's like, I can't imagine why I put myself through that kind of torture. Right.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't have those same experiences.
They didn't. No.
No.
Not even a little bit.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm saying this not to scare you away, but I wouldn't suggest that you haphazardly go into take an Iboga.
Right.
It's not a play thing.
Recreational.
It's not a play thing.
No.
Right?
It's not LSD, people.
It's not.
Would you do it again?
The funniest question.
When I first asked you that, first day.
There was no way on Earth, God's green earth, not one speck of that stuff will ever even get close to my mouth. I remember telling one of my friends who had done it, I said, if I ever say I'm going to try it again or I'm going to do it again, slap the shit out of me. No, absolutely zero. None. And that lasted all the way into the evening. It's like, no, Ray. That's like, how could anybody ever do remember we had a choice of doing a 3-day 1 dose or a 5-day 2 dose.
Mm-hmm.
And we all had initially signed up for a 5-day 2 dose. And I remember sitting there in horror, imagining the position I would be in with having paid a lot of money and have now on the docket to do a second dose of this stuff. And I was like, how in the hell do I get the hell out of here?
Yes.
Get the hell out of here.
Yes, indeed.
And the shaman, he said, because in fact, he's heard that story before. And the next morning and that evening, I remember texting you about what's going on. And you said something about that the journey wasn't over and Iboga wasn't done with me, and that tonight's journey would be much more gentle.
Uh-huh.
And yes, in fact, I went to bed and I had turned on my own Soul Star music.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of the song comes the bells that the Iboga shaman uses. And I heard those bells like, oh, she's here. And I closed my eyes and just let gentle happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I knew, I was opening my eyes. It was the next day, and I saw the Cheshire grin on her face. And I was like, oh, I see why you would do it and how you would do it again. I would
Right.
do it again.
Right.
So the answer to that is yes, I would. And I might take my captain hat off
Maybe.
and allow Iboga to be the captain of
Would
the
you
ride.
take more care of with the caffeine and the other things that he said, not to take supplements and stuff?
I would probably, for the sake of superstition, maybe not take the strophanthus right before. I took that because it's supposed to be good for your heart, and it was there, and I was like, oh, I might try it. And it's an African herb too. I said, they're African, they probably get along great.
Okay.
The shaman was like,
Oh
my God, why didn't he tell me? So
Yes.
I don't know if you're not supposed to, but
I
you
think
probably
you're supposed
shouldn't.
to. Right. Yeah.
Either way, I wouldn't so much worry about the caffeine. I wouldn't so much worry about the diet. I wouldn't so much worry about all that stuff. I would be more cognizant and aware of my connection to the dose, the when, how
Mhm.
often, how much, and not getting stuck in those spins for sure. I mean, quite honestly, the next day he told me pretty much everyone who stops at 2 and gets in the spins, if you take a third, then that will stop and you will get through it. But he didn't say that then.
Yeah.
He said that the next day when it's too late for me to do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit frustrated, but I found in retrospect, right? I had quit drinking and smoking cigarettes cold turkey on my own
Yes.
some decade ago. And I closed the door to being negatively influenced by those substances.
Yeah.
But those substances still had a
They're hooked
hook
on you.
in me,
Yeah.
but they're not, I wouldn't allow them to be used.
Mm-hmm.
But if that door ever, I mean, we're all human.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you slam a door, I'm not saying that's impossible for someone to figure out a way to open it again.
Right.
It could potentially, possibly, right? Then the hook for the addiction was still existent.
Yes.
And this Iboga journey, even though I had nowhere on my intention list or anything of clearing any of the addictions of alcohol or cigarettes or any other drugs for that matter, I feel like
That will never
that will
happen.
never happen. That is like completely eliminated and erased from the potential. It
Mhm.
doesn't even matter if you open that fucking door. I ain't drinking,
Right.
right? And cigarettes too.
Yeah.
No
and
addiction.
It's like that is radically important because the level of the game that you're playing is not the light one, right?
Right. It's not light as in light duty.
No, it's not light duty. Yeah.
And the consequences are severe for.
Extremely severe. Yeah.
And so I feel like the amount that I got was how much it required to pull that addiction hook out.
I think so too. Yeah. I think you're right.
So I didn't expect it, but that's what happened.
Good job, honey. Yay. All right. So, what would you do? What would you have wished to have known before that you didn't know?
Well, I wish I knew the exact schedule and the effect of each dose, and that you don't have to take it all on a time schedule, and that you don't have to take all that you get, and that if you pause, that doesn't mean you don't get any more. That
Right.
the
And then you have
amount
to.
and the dosage is
Yeah.
more related to your connection to the plant and less related to it's 1 hour, so take more.
Right.
Because I kind of thought like this is a scheduled ingestion schedule, and as you ingest it, then it goes here, and then you put more, and it stacks, and then it stacks, and then it stacks, and if you get off the schedule, you're messing up the whatever.
Yeah.
But it isn't that.
Right.
It's more important that you have a clear connection with the plant and what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
and allow the dosage to be dependent on that connection and not on it's here,
Mm.
so take it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's I think is important, and I know that other people who do this ritual work from that perspective. They start their people with very small doses and then really, really listen, watch, and see what the person has to say about it before they go, even if they give them another dose and how much that dose is going to be,
Yeah.
you know? So it's different people to do things differently, but knowing that you can do things according to your own wisdom, right?
Right. But again, part of
And
this
also,
wisdom is the after.
but also there's a thing here that hasn't been addressed, right? This scheduling, and you're gonna take it every hour, right? Although you do have a choice, I think. They were asked, "Do you want another one?"
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. It's done like that for like this person who did the ceremony, or not the ceremony, the ritual, has mostly worked with addicts, right?
Right. And that's
And
true.
it's actually what benefit you see. It's like that addiction energy is gone. It's never gonna happen again.
Right. The addiction energy, I mean, a lot of the ritual, it supported that if you had an addiction thing that needed to be
Mhm.
dealt with, the music, the sound, the point, the area, the place it would bring you, there were, definitely supportive of removing those addiction hooks.
Mm.
And again, it's like in foresight, had I known these things, I probably wouldn't have gotten stuck in this. I know I wouldn't have got stuck in the spins because I know how to get out of the spins.
Right. Just take a third.
Just take a third dose and that'll be done. And don't be afraid of 4 or 5 or 6, because our most happy customer had 6
Yes.
and I had 2.
He didn't even get
He didn't
nauseous.
even get nauseous. So, there are some things that you just don't know until you've been through it once.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if anything, I would say, there's nothing better than the hindsight from doing it and finding out through whatever it was you did, what did what.
And there's another question here. Was there anything that you knew that you're really glad that you knew?
Well, I was really glad that I knew caffeine interacted with ibogaine in a chemistry way and not just well, if you fast, then you blah blah, or this kind of things. It's like this. Sometimes these rules of the game are like not exactly not true, but they're not really necessarily applicable to everyone.
Right.
It's like you shouldn't eat meat if you want to blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, yeah, but I'm going to eat meat and it's not going to change it.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this isn't true with Iboga, they say that you actually should eat heartily and fully and a whole lot, because you're going to be working with no more food for days, and
Mm-hmm.
it's good to be like fully magnesiumed up and all the stuff that your body needs. You should be stocked. So the knowing that you shouldn't have caffeine because of its interaction. There was a few things that were stimulants that you shouldn't have because of their interaction with the Iboga. I mean, I'm glad I knew that.
Right. That's really
and
good.
didn't just, blow it off.
Mm-hmm. So, for anyone thinking to do this ritual, what would you tell them?
I tell them, you better strap in. This could be a pretty wild ride. It could be freaking brutal. It could be like the thing that you regret the most right after you've done it, in the morning after.
Mm-hmm. That sounds very familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. But
Very personal.
it's very personal because the other people that were with me, one of them in the morning, she's like, yeah, no problem. I'd do it again. I'm like,
Well,
are you from another planet? Another one, wake up, glug, 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 a big jug of, I brought him some lemonade. No problem. I'm feeling, been up all night, but I'm all right. let's go have some lunch. Got any burgers? It's like, what? Another one, he was in hibernation, but he took more and longer than we did. So he was like 8 hours behind us. And so while we were in our recovery, he was still in the not there yet.
Right.
So all that whole day, he was 8 hours behind us. But when he came out of it, he was like, I anticipated his reaction would be way more severe than the rest of ours because he's super sensitive. And he wasn't.
Yeah.
Mine was.
Yes.
And I thought I would have, I can do that. I can do anything.
Yes.
So you might take your humble pie and eat that. I would suggest that.
Humble pie.
Humble pie is probably a good thing to take first.
Yes.
Big slice of humble pie, and don't drink it with coffee. That's all I got to say about that.
Brilliant. Well, I'm really glad you shared your experience, honey, that you went and explored.
I really want anyone who's listening to this to listen to the rest of the story, the stories of the 3 other individuals who are going to share their experiences, because while I'm telling you how brutal it is and how hard and how difficult and how terrible even, I mean, I don't feel that way now.
Right.
And they didn't feel that way ever.
No, they didn't get headaches,
Right. So I think it's real valuable to listen to more experiences and not let me like scare you away. But I don't want you to go in it also like
Think it's
me
gonna be
thinking it's necessarily a walk in the park, because of all of the things that I've ever done in my life, this probably counts as one of the more difficult, like uncomfortable. Yeah. Probably the most uncomfortable physically I've been for a solid 15 hours. And if that matters anything to you, then better weigh that discomfort with what you plan on or want to go address. Because if what you want to address is more important, then this discomfort is going to be irrelevant. And it probably won't even be anywhere as large as mine. You might just wake up and have a glass of lemonade and want a cheeseburger. So,
Yes.
everyone's going to be different.
Right.
But I really, really suggest you listen to the rest of this podcast and get the second part, the Wisdom Keeper part.
Get the Wisdom Keeper part at drivingtotherest.com and listen, especially if you're interested in the shamanic journeys. Listen to that second half for sure.
Okay. Love you, honey.
Love you.
And thanks for telling me to surrender to the plant.
Oh, you're welcome.
I will try to listen better next time.
Join us for the rest of this conversation at drivingtotherest.com.
And when you go to drivingtotherest.com and you join in the rest of the show, rest of the second hour, you also get to join in the after party. 9 o'clock on Fridays, we all get together, including you.